morning, committee members. I welcome you to meeting number 25. The clerk has advised me we have a quorum, and those that would be attending virtually are sound tested and have been approved. So again, welcome to meeting number 25 at the Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills, Social Development, and Status of Persons with Disabilities. We are going to hear from witnesses on Bill C-15 today. Today's meeting has taken place, as I indicated, in a hybrid format pursuant to the standing orders of the House. Before I begin, a couple of points. You have the choice to participate in this meeting in the official language of your choice. If you're in the room, make sure you select the channel, and that will give you the language that you choose to participate in. Those appearing virtually, click on the globe icon at the bottom of your surface and choose the language of your choice. If there is a interruption in interpretation, please get my attention. We'll suspend while it is being corrected. Again, as well, please ensure your devices are on silent mode, and please refrain from tapping on the microphone boom for the protection of the translators. I would also like to remind participants, please wait until I recognize you by name before we participate. If you need to get my attention, put your hand up, and I will wait until I recognize you. So today we have the first panel. We had 3 witnesses, but the witness that was having issue with their headset continued to have it for this, and then chose to submit his brief to the committee because the issues could not be overcome from where he was at. So today we have two witnesses appearing. From the Canadian Dental Hygienists Association, Ondina Love, Chief Executive Officer. From the National Association of Career Colleges, Michael Sangster, Chief Executive Officer. Each organization, you have 5 minutes for opening comments. So we'll begin with Madame Love for 5 minutes or less. Madame Love, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for the opportunity to appear today on behalf of the Canadian Dental Hygienists Association, CDHA. Canada's 35,000 dental hygienists are frontline oral health professionals. The divisions before you, 34, 36, and 44 of Bill C-15, may appear technical, but each has meaningful implications for health equity, child well-being, and access to preventive care, particularly in underserved communities. CDHA is a national voice for dental hygienists. Our members work in private practice, public health, long-term care, Indigenous communities, educational institutions, and independent practice settings. They deliver essential preventive services, oral health assessments, scaling, root planing, fluoride application, oral cancer screening, and health promotion. Dental hygienists are primary healthcare professionals whose work is central to early intervention and the successful implementation of federal programs like the Canadian Dental Care Plan, CDCP. Budget 2025 includes a commitment to protecting the CDCP, which covers a wide range of preventive services to help people avoid seriously and costly oral health problems. More than 27,000 oral health providers are now participating nationally, and dental hygienists play a key prevention-focused role in its success. Sustaining and strengthening the prevention portion of CDCP is essential to protecting what matters to Canadians: affordable, accessible, preventive oral health care, especially for individuals and families facing financial or geographic barriers. Relating to Vision 44 of the National School Food Program Act, CDHA strongly supports the vision that all children and youth should have access to nutritious food at school in an inclusive environment. Nutrition is the cornerstone of oral health, and the foods and beverages children consume at school directly influence their risk for tooth decay, one of the most common, painful, and preventable childhood diseases. Nutrition is oral health policy. A national school food program can reduce health disparities, but only if oral health considerations are embedded from the start. excess free sugars remain the leading dietary driver of tooth decay. Without clear guardrails, even well-intentioned programs can worsen health outcomes. CDHA recommends embedding Sugar Smart standards in regulations with clear limits on added sugars and prioritizing nutrient-dense, tooth-friendly foods. Integration of oral health promotion, including age-appropriate education, would also be beneficial. And finally, the inclusion of oral health indicators such as dental pain-related absenteeism and available screening data in the program's performance measurement framework. Moving to Division 36 and Division 34, Canada is already facing a significant maldistribution of dental hygienists, with persistent vacancy rates in several regions of the country. Training capacity has not kept pace with demand, and dental hygiene programs rely heavily on international student enrollment because of the high cost of clinical education infrastructure. As a result, caps on international enrollment pose immediate and serious challenges to program sustainability and to the future supply of dental hygienists. This pressure is compounded by the proposed changes in the Budget 2025. In 2025, approximately 63% of dental hygiene graduates came from private for-profit educational institutions. Limiting access to the Canada Student Grant for full-time students to public and not-for-profit institutions will therefore have a substantial impact on students pursuing careers in dental hygiene. As the committee examines these amendments, it will be important to consider how they may affect program accessibility, workforce supply, and broader oral health system. In this context, CDHA is grateful that the government has included dental hygienists in the recent expansion of the Student Loan Forgiveness Program. This is a meaningful step for our profession and for the communities we serve. Loan forgiveness is not simply a financial support measure. It's a strategic workforce tool. It will help Canada attract and retain dental hygienists in rural, remote, northern, and other underserved communities where preventable dental disease is most prevalent and access to care is most limited. Now that the program is moving forward, CDHA urges the committee to ensure alignment with federal oral health initiatives, including the CDCP, and community-based preventive programs so that loan forgiveness strengthens service capacity where it's needed most. This is the right program at the right moment. With strong implementation, student loan forgiveness will not only ease financial pressures on new graduates, it will help Canada build a more resilient, equitable, and community-oriented oral health workforce. In closing, thank you for the opportunity to appear on behalf of CDHA. I welcome your questions on any aspect of the budget implementation measures and their connection to the dental hygiene profession, the oral health workforce, or Canadians' access to preventive oral health services. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Love. We'll now move to Mr. Sangster for 5 minutes or less.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear today. My name is Michael Sangster, and I am the CEO of the National Association of Career Colleges, and I represent over 500 regulated career colleges in every province in Canada. We train more than 200,000 learners annually in job-ready programs aligned to Canada's labour market needs. Canada is operating in a period of significant economic pressure, trade uncertainty, and fiscal restraint. The government is faced with major national challenges in housing, infrastructure, trade, energy, healthcare. Those realities are real, and they require thoughtful policy decisions that align education with economic outcomes. I represent career colleges that work tirelessly with our regulators and student aid officials to improve accountability in student financial assistance and improve student outcomes through regulation. While we understand and support the government's desire to ensure quality outcomes, we believe eliminating the Canada Student Grant for learners in programs longer than 1 year at career colleges moves Canada in the wrong direction. Starting August 1st, 2026, our learners will no longer have access to these grants. This change does not reduce the cost of education. It transfers financial risk and hardship to regulated career college students, many of whom are working adults, career changers, and parents already managing employment, family responsibilities, and the rising cost of living. That is why I am here today, to represent my members, but more importantly, the students who rely on us and the employers and communities that we partner with to create our workforce. Let me reframe the conversation to why a student chooses a regulated career college. They do so because their program of choice can start next week. The classes fit their lifestyle, the practical training gets them a job, and small class sizes that help them succeed. Students choose a regulated career college because it meets their needs. Shouldn't government policy do the same for a single mother, a newcomer to Canada, or a laid-off auto worker? Employers choose career colleges because they train the workforce they need. They get employees with real skills to do the job on day one. These grants are not a luxury. For many learners, these grants are the part of the opportunity that helps them get an education and a job with dignity. For the auto worker looking for a fresh start, they create an opportunity to become a cybersecurity professional. These grants turn new Canadians into nurses, dental assistants, and early childhood educators. These grants support single mothers to train in a third-party accredited program that gives her and her children a better future. Our colleges are helping the government deliver on programs like the Canada-wide Early Learning and Child Care Program, the Canada Dental Care Plan, and the Pharmacare Program, to name a few. The results are clear. 60% of career college graduates report being hired within 3 months of graduation, and more than 80% of employed graduates are working in jobs related to their own training. Regulated career colleges are not a threat to Canada's public post-secondary institutions. Rather, they complement the system already struggling to keep up with the demand of training and reskilling workers to meet the moment we are in. We train a different cohort of students, and they are being left out of this conversation. Student financial assistance should expand choice and opportunity, not restrict it based on institution type. Provinces regulate quality. Third-party accreditors ensure standards are being met. We should let students choose the institutions that meet their needs, their schedules, their locations, and their learning modalities. Today, we are asking the committee to make a recommendation to the government to reverse the decision announced in Budget 2025. We must restore grant eligibility for regulated career college learners and pursue targeted reforms that strengthen integrity without cutting off access. We have and continue to be prepared to offer other solutions that we believe are equal and fair. If Canada wants workforce resilience, we must protect flexibility, multiple pathways, and affordability to training. Choice matters, and when learners succeed, Canada succeeds. Thank you for your service to your constituents, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sangster. We'll now move to the first round of questions, which are 6 minutes. We'll begin with Mr. Janis for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to both the witnesses for the important work that you do and for reinforcing the call Conservatives have been making to reverse the proposed discrimination against students based on the kind of institution they're studying at. It certainly doesn't make sense to me at a time when we're dealing with skill mismatches as part of the challenges contributing to youth unemployment, that we would rule out grants to anyone studying at a career college at the same time as offering those grants to anyone studying any program at a university, making distinctions that have nothing to do with labor market needs and are instead focused on institution type, I think is a big mistake, and it goes in the wrong direction. We need to be giving esteem to all careers and encouraging young people to look at the labor market and to consider careers that are according with the needs of the labor market, rather than making decisions based on kind of the esteem of the type of institution. So I think that's what I hear you saying, and I thank you for raising these points. Ms. Love, I wanted to start with you. In the context of the youth unemployment crisis we're talking about, there have been instances of skill and training mismatches, and what I hear you saying is that dental hygienist is a career where there is demand, especially in remote areas. So for young people thinking about where are the careers that are going to lead to employment, that yours is one area that they should be looking at because of demand in the market. Is that correct?
Absolutely. There's currently 41 educational programs in Canada for dental hygiene. We have 9 private programs and 32 public programs. 10 are unaccredited. 9 of the programs are in Quebec, and 1 is in Saskatchewan, which is seeking accreditation, but it's a brand new program. So 63%, though, of those writing the NDHCE, which is the exam to become a dental hygienist, graduate from a private school. As I mentioned in my remarks, it's the caps on the public programs, the caps on the international students has really impacted their financial viability. One dental assisting program in BC has already closed, and we're worried about the future of the public dental hygiene programs in Canada. But also to cut grants for private schools, that could impact the enrollment of private institutions as well. With the CDCP, the demand has never been higher for dental hygienists.
Right. So just jump in. You're talking, the situation now is there is demand for dental hygienists.
Absolutely.
There's a need there. But it sounds like you're describing a situation in the future where things could get worse. Public programs are under pressure. They're losing spots, potentially closing. Already, almost 2/3 of students are coming through private programs. So if there's closures on the public side, that 63% is going to go up further, which means that whatever people might think ideologically about the difference between public and private, the reality is just going to be to meet the demand for dental hygienists. Those private programs are going to be extremely important, and the changes proposed around grants are going to make it very difficult for middle and low income students to opt for that, and they might choose another career path instead that may respond less to the demand in the market.
Absolutely, you're correct, because the Canadian Dental Care Plan is a fantastic program. The demand is very, very high. Canadians appreciate it. They're seeing care. We have recent survey results, which we're releasing in a few weeks, that say that demand is higher than ever, and people are actually receiving care. Dental hygienists can practice in rural or remote communities. They have mobile practices. 40% of our independent hygienists go and practice with a van or a retrofitted ambulance to provide care in those communities where there isn't care. And so any cuts to their educational opportunities would have an impact on the future supply of oral health care delivery for Canadians.
Yeah, thank you. That's very important, and I think quite concerning that in a time of existing shortages, that government policy is exacerbating those shortages for the future in a number of ways. Mr. Sangster, you talked about the problem with the budget provision. I want to also ask you about the framing of the budget provision, because the section that proposes cutting these grants identifies this as being about quote-unquote integrity issues. So when you say we're trying to address integrity issues, but then you propose a policy that sweeps all career colleges, all private for-profit institutions in. I think it's important to ask you to respond to that kind of critical and borderline slanderous framing of the whole universe of career colleges that exists in this country.
Thank you for the question. It is a unique situation that we often face, where the misconceptions about our sector are carried on to some of these other broader conversations. We saw it in the international student crisis last couple of years ago, where we were 4.4% of the international students, but if you read a newspaper article in the first few weeks, you would have sworn we were the entire problem. I'd like to go back to the dental hygienist programs, the 9 colleges that are teaching students to graduate into those professions. That is at a regulated career college that has been approved by the province that regulates them. Then the program has been approved by the province that regulates them, often with a requirement that they prove there's a job requirement, that there's a job opportunity for those graduates before they can start the program. And then they've gone through third-party accreditation before they can even train those students. So to use a broad brush about our sector is very challenging for us. And we push back when we see those kind of statements. We're very supportive of the other levels of post-secondary education and the challenges that they're facing now too. But to make these changes in the way they're being made now, without equating it back to student choice and allowing the student to choose the institution that fits their need, we're troubled by that.
Yeah, thank you.
Janice, Madame de Rocher.
Merci
beaucoup. Pour 6 minutes.
6 minutes. You have 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you to the witness for having come to testify in person about measures in the 2025 budget. Many measures that are there to help Canadians. And Ms. Love, you talked about the dental plan measures and also the National School Food Program. In terms of the dental plan, more than 6 million Canadians enrolled in this plan, and there are more than 3.7 million Canadians, including almost 200,000 Canadians from Alberta, 1.7 million Canadians in Quebec who are enrolled and who have recurred to those services, including my electors in Trois-Rivières. And when I speak to these people, they're very emotional. They almost have tears in their eyes. They said, it's been years since I saw a dentist, and now I was able to go to the dentist. So I was able to have my teeth repaired. I can smile again. I feel good. Could you talk to me about how dentists are welcoming these new patients? Because that's 3.7 million patients who wouldn't previously have gone to the dentist. So what effect does that have on people's lives?
It is an incredible program that the government is funding. We've heard many stories, the same as you. I've had a dental hygienist who treated an 86-year-old man who never received dental care in his life. And she said it was the highlight of her career to receive, and he's coming back. He's having oral health care. They're receiving care in long-term care homes where they couldn't chew, eat, or swallow, and now they're receiving care. We have dental hygienists that have mobile practices that go into long-term care. Before, it was only those that could afford it they could provide care for. Now, because of CDCP, many can have that, and that means their quality of life improves significantly. So there's so many cases. We just did some public opinion polling regarding the CDCP, and nearly 73% of CDCP users say that the program has helped them access dental services they previously could not. And I just got these results yesterday. We're launching them in a few weeks. A lot of it is the cost. So 92% say the program has at least somewhat improved their access to dental care. So we're hearing very, very positive things about the program. And also, we want to prevent disease. Dental caries is the #1 disease in the world, and it's largely preventable. And so through this program, we can prevent disease. By preventing disease, it has economic impacts. There's reduced emergency room visits, which costs the healthcare system, reduced absenteeism for children at school, reduced absenteeism for our workforce because they have good oral health care and they're not missing work because of dental pain. And so really the programs are coming on board. There's 27,000 oral health providers enrolled in the program providing care. But we do need the oral health workforce. We do need a strong workforce, including dentists and dental hygienists, and the whole dental care team, including assistants, to be trained to deliver that care.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Preventive, I think it's... Je vais retourner en français. Je suis plus à l'aise en français.
I feel more comfortable in French. So, yes, prevention is extremely important. You talked about the National School Food Program, which is another tool, and just as with the dental program, is being blocked by our opposition colleagues. And these are programs that are in Budget 2025, which is now blocked in committees. As long as we haven't approved this budget, we won't be able to go forward with those programs. So we filed a motion in order to study the National School Food Program and make sure that it's implemented the best possible way. But we haven't been able to get to that discussion in committees, unfortunately. Can you talk about the relationship between children's oral health and better diet?
Children's oral health and overall health, it's huge. As I said, dental caries is one of the most preventable diseases in the world, yet the incidence of caries, especially in children, is kind of the norm. Everyone says their child has a cavity. Like it's becoming the norm, and it shouldn't be the norm because it's a disease. And that's why it's important to have nutrition in the schools. And have healthy choices for children. Sometimes it's the only meal they get in the day. And so it is an incredible program. And you might think, why wouldn't we just give money to the provinces to offer the program? But you look at the Canadian Dental Care Plan. This is a federal program delivered through private delivery. It's a unique and very successful program. And so there is a leadership role that the federal government can play in delivering a national school food program. It's interesting, you could give the money to the provinces with strings attached, but then is there any guarantee the program will be delivered in each of the jurisdictions in Canada? So I think a federal program will provide leadership. And not just through nutrition. I'll share a personal story. My father's 91, and he still volunteers at the school to do the breakfast program for the kids every Friday. And it's a social thing for seniors as well to get out in their communities and give back. And so I think it's important. But when you're designing a program, we'd be happy to be involved to ensure it's a tooth-friendly program and it's going to be nutritious for the oral health of the children and Canadians.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Love. Non, ça va.
Non.
Merci beaucoup de votre
Bon.
témoignage.
Merci.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Thank you very much for your evidence. Ms. Larouche, you have 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Sangster and Ms. Love, for being here with us today. We're very aware of the importance of oral health and also that the importance of children having a full stomach in the schools. So first of all, I wanted to say we understand the importance of the school food program. According to my colleague, it was something that was brought up at the committee at the last minute, but it didn't respect the committee rules, and we didn't have the opportunity of studying this. We're not against this school food program. We just wanted the motion filed with the within the deadlines imposed on committee, so according to the rules. So I just wanted to bring that clarification. So I would like to come back. Maybe I will speak about the National School Food Program later, but I'd like to talk about dental health. Dental care, we understand that program. In Quebec, we already had such a program. So for us, we're in a particular situation compared to the rest of Canada. That's why the National Assembly of Quebec asked that the funds be transferred to improve what we already have. Instead, it was a program that was attributed to a private business, and we don't know if this is why. Maybe you could answer this question, because at the end of last year, here's an open letter from a citizen from Sept-Îles. I want to draw your attention to a situation that's a paradox invoked by many people in remote regions. We have complete dental insurance, but sometimes it's very difficult, almost impossible to obtain the care within reasonable times. I live in Sept-Îles, where the offer of dental services is limited already. So the federal government's program for access to dental care is good to reduce financial problems, but it's not adapted to remote regions. The clinics that participate are overwhelmed, and they're quite far away from us. So what she was saying, so she said, I'm told I have no supplement to pay, but I can almost never get an appointment. Sometimes it takes several years, even for basic health appointments, and so it's costly and it's incompatible with working, health, or financial family responsibilities. So the state of our teeth is deteriorating because it's impossible to get an appointment. So my question is that this is a program that's been put in place in Quebec. We already had us, but what do you say to the citizen? Because people had not thought about the offer of available services so that this program might be implemented. I'm talking about the labor element.
We recognize that there is a maldistribution of oral health professionals across the country. We were looking to have kind of an oral health workforce study to ensure there are enough oral health professionals to provide care. In Quebec, it's fairly recent that independent dental hygienists can practice and have their own business, and that's only in the last few years. And so a lot of them are doing mobile practices and providing care in those rural or remote regions. I'd also congratulate the government on expanding the current student loan forgiveness program to include dental hygienists. Applications can start to be received March 26th of this year, and it's an excellent opportunity to incent hygienists to work and commit in those rural and remote communities where there is not access to care. And that's what we're trying to solve, is that access to care issue. And we need to have an adequate supply of oral health professionals. So in terms of the programs in this budget regarding the cancellation of grants for private colleges, that may reduce the number of dental hygienists in the system, and that would have impact in terms of access to care in all regions of the country. And so, I think that we still have work to do in terms of this, but we're making steps, and the student loan forgiveness should and hopefully will help in incenting people to work and live in those remote communities and provide oral health care that's so desperately needed. And dentists are included in that loan forgiveness program as well.
Vous parlez beaucoup de l'impact.
You're talking a lot about the financial aspects that discourages students to continue their school program, and that adds to the shortage of available staff. Do you observe that students who drop out of school, they don't continue, and so that contributes to the shortage of people who offer these services? Do you have other measures to propose?
Measures to propose to assist dental hygienists. So the student loan forgiveness program is one. There is a new program that just opened in Quebec as well. So currently there are 10 programs in Quebec, 9 in French and 1 in English. And so the number of educational programs in Quebec exceeds those of other provinces, except for Ontario, who has the majority of the programs. And also the cuts to the grants program could have an impact. So I think that for financial incentives, the student loan forgiveness program and having eligibility to have grants from the federal government should improve the ability for students to afford to enter dental hygiene.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. So quickly, according what you said, the other provinces which provinces have the greatest problem in terms of access to dental care? Did you hear the translation?
I don't the actual regional disparities in terms of access to care, but I can get back to you with that information.
Thank you. Thank you, Madame LaRoche. If you could provide an answer to Madame LaRoche's question in a writing committee, it would be good. We'll now move to Mr. Reynolds for 5 minutes. Mr. Reynolds, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, witnesses, for coming today. I know this is an early one. Mr. Sangster, you published an article February 6th on National News Watch. You mentioned that students enrolled in two-year programs at regulated career colleges will no longer be eligible for the Canada Student Grant for full-time students and instead will rely on repayable loans. Student financial assistance should empower choice, not restrict it. Canadians need flexibility to select training that fits their schedules, family responsibilities, and career goals without penalty because of institution type. When grants disappear, choices narrow, access shrinks, and workforce gaps widen. A couple of the workforce gaps that you mentioned were in healthcare, skilled trades and construction, technology, and digital skills. Which of these sectors do you think will be most adversely affected by this change in the budget?
That's an interesting question. It will go across all of our member colleges in the programs that they teach that are over 1 year into a second year. I think we'll face challenges in nursing, in dental assistant, dental hygienist, early childhood educators specifically, and some in the skilled trades areas as well for those programs that go longer. It will be across many of our programs. And that's why we've offered to work with the federal government on finding unique situations, changes that would be more equitable across all institutions. If the goal is to save cash, it's a fiscal restraint issue, let's look at doing it across all institutions, not by institution type. The quote you read, I talk about some of the issues our students, why they choose our colleges. I mentioned it in our opening remarks, but it's often around the time of training available to them. Nights, evenings, weekends, 1 to 5 in the day, Monday to Friday, so they can have their kids at night and work in the morning. That's one of the reasons that we have a challenge with this. That's why our schools are successful. We meet the needs of our students.
So, touching on that a little bit, what do career colleges offer that conventional post-secondary institutions don't?
I think it's that faster program in many cases, smaller class sizes, a more agile, nimble program that gets people trained quickly. We've always been very attached to the workforce part of the training where they have a practicum placement. They work with an employer. They work with someone who already does the job. So when they graduate, they're job ready. That's one of the main reasons we've seen that 81% of our graduates in our recent NANO study work directly or closely related to the studying they did. That's one of our greatest success stories.
Okay, thank you. Do you think that this government invested adequate research and consultation into this issue prior to making this decision?
I think that it's a good question. I can't really answer because I'm not familiar with the work they did to do the research. I will say this. We're asking again today to be at the table, to be part of all the conversations. We participate in NAGSFA, the National Advisory Group on Student Financial Assistance. We're willing to meet anytime, anywhere with government officials. We work with provincial regulators. We work with provincial student financial aid people to make sure that our programs are understood.
Currently, we just recently did a study in HUMA on youth unemployment and the youth unemployment crisis here in Canada, and it seems to be a growing crisis. Do you think that the youth unemployment, do you think that these changes will affect the youth unemployment crisis?
They will. They're going to harm. We're going to have less students be able to choose our institutions to train. We've shown in the data that we did, and I'm happy to provide the committee with the recent NANOS report, student aid is a crucial part of students' decisions to take our programs. And I want to go back to the ones that we're talking about today. These are over a year, they're provincially regulated and approved, and most of them are third-party accredited programs. Not all, but most of them are third-party accredited programs. The ones we talk about that we're all concerned about, nursing, dental hygienists, these kinds of positions are all third-party accredited.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you to expand on that, but you did. So in your opinion, you think it's going to get worse?
I don't believe this will help us. I have to applaud the government for their recent loan forgiveness program for rural communities. That will help. That will encourage more people to go out into those rural communities with full loan forgiveness. And that's going to make an impact in some of these roles. And that's a crucial decision the government's taken. But the cumulative effect of some of these decisions are starting to wear down our sector. And I'll just remind you, our members don't take government funding except for student aid and sometimes grants. And sometimes they directly fund tuition for programs when there's high need, like for personal support worker training in Ontario when we stepped up during COVID. But our members invest their own capital, take their own risk. And so anything that makes it more difficult to operate will be a challenge for our sector.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Ms. Fancy for 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Love and Mr. Sangster, for being here today. I took tons of notes. And predominantly, I've been an educator for over almost 2 decades before becoming in this role in the spring, and also from a rural coastal community. So a lot of what we've discussed today in terms of National School Food Program and loan forgiveness for rural and remote communities are 2 things that I'd really like to highlight today. I want to also say thank you very much, Ms. Love, for wanting to be a stakeholder in the National Food Program as we as a government try to strengthen those supports and structures from this program that is getting a lot of national attention. I know in Nova Scotia right now, I have 157 kids that are registered for that program that we're hoping to feed. I know my colleagues across the way, I've got 58,000 registered in Alberta students that are registered for within that program. And the thing that really gets me about all of this are we have people like yourselves here as witnesses today that are saying, you know, these programs that the government are putting together are great programs and we want to help strengthen them. And it's flabbergasting that every time we go to a vote, the Conservatives are voting against it. But on a positive note, it was really nice for my colleague across the way this morning to give his props to the Canadian Dental Care Plan. So I'm hoping that if that comes to a vote ever again, that you do have a conscience and vote for the program. So that being said, I would really love to ask you as well about the progress Thank you very much, colleague. So, Ms. Love, to not divert, I would love to ask you about progress within the Canada Food Program and our vision that all children and youth have access to nutritious, inclusive, local, and culturally appropriate food at school. So I'm wondering, do you have any measures or suggestions that you could give us to help strengthen and grow that program with the lens for oral care and nutrition?
Well, we certainly would be happy to participate and have dental hygienists participate in any studies or recommendations on having a nutritious, tooth-friendly, nutrient-dense food that will enhance the oral health cavity. And also, as an educator, you understand it's oral health education. It's about preventing disease, so it's about toothbrushing, and there's also could be some oral health education programs within the nutrition programs in terms of oral health care programs. So, we did, back in the day, have dental hygienists going to schools and providing that care, but in most communities that has been cut. It's still around for a few communities across the country. So I'm happy to participate in any way we can to support the program.
Wonderful. As well, from the perspective of a regulated healthcare professional, how important do you feel that, let's talk about financial assistance now, how important do you feel that financial assistance is aligned with accredited programs that meet Canadian professional and patient safety standards?
Well, financial assistance is a key need. Like our dental hygiene students are so excited about the new student loan forgiveness program. They think it's really going to help them in terms of working in those communities, committing to those communities, and help their financial viability. Dental hygiene is very expensive. It's very expensive because of the clinical component of the program, and so it's those types of government programs are meaningful. Like we lobbied for about 10 years for that program, and we're very excited that it's going to start. So we'll have to measure it. There's got to be measures in place to see how many are going to it. But we've already heard anecdotally from many students that they're going to go to those communities that are under 30,000 to provide care.
Wonderful. And I know I'm running out of time there, Chair, but I know myself, when the program began to roll out, I always do communication or informative things for all my constituents. And I received a really nice email back from a young dental oral care professional and saying just how much this is not only helping her family, but also having the choice to live in a rural coastal community. So I'm wondering if you could highlight kind of the importance and what you're hearing back from some of the people within your alliance.
Well, I mean, a lot of our dental hygienists, they go to school in more urban centers, and so we have to have an incentive to get them back to those communities. And they really do want to come back, but sometimes they have more of an opportunity to make money where they are. So those student loan forgiveness certainly will incent them to go back to those communities where they're from.
Nice. And I don't want to leave you out as well there, Mr. Sangster, today. I've got a question in regards to, you had mentioned earlier about mature students or first-generation students going to school. Would you agree that student financial assistance must prioritize programs that lead to recognized credentials and clear employment pathways? Thank you.
We're very supportive of student aid funding accredited programs. I would just point out quickly that our provinces regulate all of our programs, and they guide them towards employment outcomes that lead to careers and lead to jobs. And they're the local experts on the ground in those communities. And as I stated earlier, many of our programs are not approved until we can prove there's an actual job need.
Thank you, Ms. Fancy. Madame LaRouche, pour 2 minutes et 30.
Ms. LaRouche, you have 2.5 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you again to the witnesses for having come. So I will be asking a question. Maybe you can both answer briefly. So as I was saying about problems in remote areas for access to dental care, maybe your point of view in terms of the colleges teaching people to specialize, but what would improve things in those remote things? So mobile clinics, to have more dentists review the program in order to take into account geographical constraints so that private institutions be used, better cooperation between professionals and insurance, so to avoid people not being able to have services. What do you think of these proposals from citizens to improve programs?
In terms of, the mobile is definitely one, and I know that's really increasing in Quebec as well. There's been a number of ambulances that have been retrofitted, and they're doing clinics in all regions of the country. I did find some of the data. So those that are delaying or avoiding dental care due to affordability concerns is more common among younger Canadians, women, lower income earners, rural residents, as well as those living in Alberta and Atlantic Canada. In Quebec, only 31% said they are delaying dental care due to affordability concerns. And I apologize, I just got this last night, so I haven't digested all this data yet.
I would add that we continue to see more movement or more opportunity to move towards online learning that supports people in rural communities training where they are, and then trying to find ways to get them that practical training in their own communities. And we support that. We've seen some very creative programs across the country on different ways to do that and make sure they can do their online learning and their practical learning in their own communities where they're going to work.
Donc, je voudrais savoir
So I'd like to know, what role could the federal government play to support Quebec and provinces in terms of accreditation of qualifications and to increase the workforce for dental hygienists coming from abroad? Is that a problem, Mr. Sangster?
I'm happy to add one of the things that we could look towards is improving some of the immigration programs that target students to come into colleges, universities, and career colleges for very specific programs where there's a job need. We could see much improvement in that area.
Merci. Merci, Madame LaRouche.
Thank you, Ms. LaRouche.
Mr. Jennis for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to make sense of the questions from the government. Ms. Fancy said something that I really agree with. She said that student grant funding should be connected with an assessment of clear employment outcomes. For what it's worth, that's our policy. We put forward as part of our youth jobs plan that students should receive relatively more generous grants when pursuing studies linked to in-demand fields, and that those determinations should be made entirely objectively. The Liberal Parliamentary Secretary, Ms. Church, criticized that policy in the House, and the budget measures do precisely the opposite of what Ms. Fancy is talking about. They provide any grant. They provide the full grant to any student in a university program, and they provide for the elimination of grants for students studying at private for-profit institutions. So the distinction is not made based on employment outcomes associated with the program. The distinction is made purely on the basis of the institution. And members of the government now are trying to heckle me, but they haven't at any point raised this issue with the witnesses. So I'd like to ask Mr. Sangster, so we haven't had any government members address your testimony around the decision in the budget to eliminate grants for students at private institutions. I'm a bit surprised by that in a sense. They put it in the budget. They must have had a reason for doing it, and yet they're not prepared to defend it today. Are you having conversations with the government about this policy, the effect on your sector, and what are you hearing back from ministers or other members of the government about why they're doing this and how they're planning on proceeding?
Yes, we are having some discussions. I think it's fair to say that we've expressed to them our disappointment in the policy, and I think they're starting to think about what some of the exemptions could be, and that's one of the challenges we're faced with. They do mention in the budget exemptions, but it's unclear at this point what those are going to be. So there's some opportunity there to work with the government and figure out what the exemptions could be around different programs that are in need. And I think I'd go back to one of the things that we do point out to them is the training we're talking about is in many of the government's priorities. The healthcare, the dental plan, the pharmacare plan, the Build Canada plan, those are the kind of roles that we're trading for in this country. And I've not touched on cybersecurity as well as one of those issues that one of those training programs that many of our colleges are offering to make sure that we protect ourselves against cyber threats, that corporations, small, mediums, and large businesses are able to have those employees on board that can protect those companies. So these are all the kinds of things that we've been talking to government to, writing about as Mr. Reynolds points out in the newspaper about some of these issues.
Yeah. When I first raised this with Minister Haidu at committee, and I've raised this issue with her on a number of occasions, she said something like, I think what you're hearing from them is that, well, there's the possibility of exemptions to this policy. I don't understand why they would blanket cut off students at private for-profit institutions and then only propose to partially fill in that hole through piece-by-piece exemptions that every program has to lobby for, apply for. Universities don't have to go through that process, right? Every student at a university, regardless of the program they're studying, how job relevant it is or isn't, will have access to these grants. And you're in the position of needing to make the case for these exemptions. Meanwhile, I asked her, well, are there any exemptions planned or contemplated? And at the time, she had no response to that. So. What position? Just very briefly, what position does it put you in where instead of where at certain kinds of institutions these grants are available, and at others you have to make the case painstakingly every time for why there should be an exemption?
Yeah, I don't think it's a winning situation for me to put myself in the seat of the government and what they're thinking in this, but I will say this. We try and think of what the students are thinking. What are the decisions that they're taking? Why are they choosing our institutions in order to get retrained, get back to work? Why are employers working with us in order to get those skilled workers into their employment? So, yes, it's a difficult situation for our members, and the uncertainty is a big challenge.
Yeah. Ms. Love, you talked about student loan forgiveness, but you've got kind of a giving with one hand and a taking away with the other, right? Because you've got student loan forgiveness and the elimination of student grants. What kind of a message does it send for the government to say, on the one hand, yeah, you can get loan forgiveness, but on the other hand, for the majority of your students, grants will be eliminated?
Well, it's kind of on one hand giving and one hand taking away, but the student loan forgiveness is a different. It's for committing to work in rural and remote communities, where the grants is just educating to work anywhere in Canada. Which
so
does
the grants are for everyone. The student loan forgiveness would be for some and not others. So for some of those
federal student loans.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Janice. We will conclude this round with Monsieur Joseph for 5 minutes.
Merci. Mr. Joseph, you have 5 minutes. Thank you, Chair. And first of all, I'd like to thank both witnesses for their presence today and for the important contribution they're making to our work on Bill C-15. In the measures of the 2025 budget, despite the obstacles created by the opposition, today's discussion is related to fundamental issues: access to health care, development of skills, youth employment, and the vitality of our rural communities and remote communities. So even though I'm on the committee, I have to say that I'm still troubled by what's happened in Tumbler Ridge in BC. So I'm taking advantage of the opportunity to send a lot of love to the communities in British Columbia, especially to my honourable colleague Bob Zimmer. I'm sorry, I'm very emotional. At the heart of this discussion, there's a similar priority: ensure that public investment concretely respond to the needs of Quebecers and Canadians while preparing to deal with issues of the workforce in the future. So I'd like to go into greater detail about certain elements. You said that the Canadian Dental Care Plan improves access to healthcare. Have you observed concrete effects in the field, so in rural communities or communities with low incomes? Ms. Love, first, please.
Question. So, as I said, I do have some relative data. Regarding the status of the CDCP, in terms of the CDCP, the application process has been very easy, and applications to the CDCP are the highest among Canadians aged 60 plus, and for those with household incomes under $50,000. In terms of, if you're looking at Quebec region, it's 45% yes, I have applied for myself or I have applied for a dependent. The application process, 95% say it's very easy in terms of applying for the program. And 66% of Canadians with an approved application have already attended a dental appointment. So that's a significant number of people who have received the funding. And nearly 73% of CDCP users say the program has helped them access dental services they previously could not access. So I think that's a significant number as well. And more than 8 in 10 of CDCP users, 84%, say their coverage fully or mostly meets their dental care needs.
Okay. Parce qu'au Québec, actuellement,
Because currently in Quebec, my colleague mentioned that 1.7 million people are now covered by this dental hair care plan. And I have another question for you, Ms. Love, talking about the inclusion of dental hygienist in the program of student loan forgiveness. So changing the capacity of recruitment in remote areas that are underserved. Would that change that? Having student loan forgiveness for dental hygienist students.
est-ce que je peux recommencer?
Can I?
And
Ok,
the
je vais recommencer.
translation.
En quoi l'inclusion des hygiénistes dentaires
How does the inclusion of dental hygienists in the student loan forgiveness program will concretely change the recruitment capacity in underserved areas?
We don't have data on that because they can't even apply until March 26th of this year. They're not accepting applications. And so we have heard anecdotally from many students that they are going to commit to working in rural and remote regions. We've heard from students from across the country. They're very excited about this program, but we don't have any hard data because the program isn't even launched yet.
Mais j'ai une question, je ne sais pas si c'est quoi. Selon vous, est-ce
Do I, 5 seconds.
The first hour we'll suspend for a few moments while we transition to the next panel. Suspend. back in session for the second panel today, and I would like to welcome the following witnesses. Mr. Robert Henderson, President, BioTalent Canada. From the Canadian Chiropractic Association, Dr. Alia Azad, Chief Executive Officer, and we have appearing online, and I don't see it virtually, we have Mr. Dana Stephenson, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder by video conference from Ripon Networks Incorporated. Each has, before I do that, you have the option to participate in the official language of your choice in the room, so please, if you need interpretation, have the headset and the channel and the language that you are going to participate in. As well, if you are appearing virtually, click on the globe icon at the bottom of your surface, choose the official language of your choice. If there is a breakdown, get my attention, we'll spend while it's corrected. And please avoid tapping on the microphone boom for the benefit of our interpreters. As well, direct all questions through I, the chair. With that, to our witness, each of you have a 5-minute opening statement. We'll begin with Mr. Henderson. You have up to 5 minutes. Mr. Henderson, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Bonjour à tous.
Thank you very much, Chair. Hello to everyone.
Very much for the invitation to appear today. My name is Rob Henderson. I'm here on behalf of BioTalent Canada, the national sectoral workforce development partner for Canada's bioeconomy, meaning Canada's biotechnology sector. We're also an employer delivery partner under the Student Work Placement Program, which is, I think, the reason why I'm here today. We're a national not-for-profit organization, and we work with 210,000 approximately employees that constitute Canada's biotech sector and 12,000 employers. We work with more than 5,000 of those employers across biotechnology, health, agricultural, clean biomanufacturing, and life sciences, sectors that are talent-intensive, innovation-driven, and essential to Canada's economic and public health resilience. Since 2018, through the Student Work Placement Program, BioTalent Canada has placed no less than 17,000, which constitutes almost 9% of the entire biotechnology workforce, through the Student Work Placement Program. I'd like to speak briefly to how Divisions 34, 36, and 44 of Part 5 of Bill C-15 align with the goals of Student Work Placement Program, and why that alignment matters for Canadian students, employers, and taxpayers. First, in Division 36, which amends the Canadian Student Financial Assistance Act, it reinforces an important principle. Federal supports should prioritize Canadian learners and Canadian institutions. From a student work placement program perspective, this matters because our program is built to connect students studying in Canada with employers operating in Canada, many of them small and medium-sized enterprise. Indeed, 80% of Canada's biotechnology sector are small and medium-sized enterprises of employers less than 50 staff members. And in fact, 50% of that have less than 10 staff members. So therefore, these are very small and medium-sized enterprises, which a lot of times is surprising for people understanding Canada's biotechnology sector. They usually think that these are the larger pharmaceutical firms. In terms of employment, that is not the case. The largest employers are small and medium-sized enterprises. 70% of employers in Canada's biotech sector have no human resource expertise on staff. So you have a lot of scientists doing human resources, which is often like getting a plumber to do your taxes. They're not trained on this, and it's a very difficult, yes. They're not trained in this field, and it's sometimes very challenging, which is why the Student Work Placement Program is so important. Clear eligibility rules and alignment between federal and provincial systems reduce friction, speed up hiring, and give employers confidence, especially small and medium-sized enterprises without HR or compliance teams. Through the Student Work Placement Program, BioTalent Canada helps employers offer paid, hands-on work experience to post-secondary students while receiving wage subsidies and other employer supports, including training, that lower the risk of hiring early career talent. This model works particularly well in the bioeconomy, where regulated environments, specialized skills, and long onboarding periods can otherwise discourage employers from hiring students. Finally, in Division 34, while technical in nature, reflects the same broader policy objective we see across Bill C-15, and that is modernizing federal frameworks so programs can be delivered efficiently, predictably, and with accountability. That predictability is critical for national programs like the Student Work Placement Program that operate at scale and rely in partnerships between government, sector organizations, and employers. In closing, Bill C-15 supports a coherent talent pipeline, which is critical, from early supports to post-secondary education to paid work experience to long-term employment in Canada. BioTalent Canada is proud to play a role in that pipeline and continues to do so, helping students gain meaningful experience and helping employers build the workforce they need to innovate and grow here at home. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Dr. Azad, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear today. My name is Ayla Azad. I have been a chiropractor for 30 years, and I am the CEO of the Canadian Chiropractic Association. Today, I am speaking on behalf of the CCA, which represents more than 9,000 doctors of chiropractic across Canada, and more importantly, on behalf of the millions of Canadians living with pain, limited mobility, and physical disability who rely on access to musculoskeletal care to live and work. Each year, 4.7 million Canadians seek care from chiropractors. These are seniors trying to stay independent, parents working physically demanding jobs, or people managing chronic pain or injury who simply want to keep moving, stay employed, and participate in their communities. Chiropractors are primary contact healthcare providers trained to diagnose and manage musculoskeletal conditions using evidence-based, non-invasive, drug-free care. For many patients, access to chiropractic care is the difference between functioning and not functioning. Today, we are here to discuss Clause 573 of Bill C-15 and the unintended consequences these provisions could have on patient access, particularly in rural, northern, and underserved communities. Canada faces a significant training bottleneck for chiropractic. There are only 2 chiropractic education programs in the entire country, one in English at the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College in Toronto, and one in French at the Université du Québec à Trois-Rivières. 2 programs cannot meet the workforce needs of a nation this size. As a result, approximately 30% of Canadian chiropractors are educated in the United States or internationally at fully accredited institutions. This is not a loophole. It is a necessity to meet Canada's healthcare needs. As currently drafted, Bill C-15 risks cutting off access to federal student financial assistance for students who must study outside Canada at private or for-profit institutions, even when they return home to practice and serve Canadian patients. Chiropractors are also excluded from the Canada Student Loan Forgiveness Program, despite providing essential care in high-need communities. If these barriers remain, patients will pay the price. Canada is already facing a serious health human resource crisis, with many Canadians unable to access care and experiencing long wait times and delays to receive timely treatment. From a fiscal perspective, maintaining access to student financial assistance and loan forgiveness for chiropractors is a low-cost policy choice that helps prevent higher downstream spending on emergency care, disability supports, and long-term income replacement. In rural and remote communities, chiropractors are often the only accessible providers for pain and mobility care. When student debt makes it financially impossible to practice in these regions, care is delayed or disappears altogether. Pain worsens, disability increases, people leave the workforce. In many cases, medications such as opioids become the default, not by choice, but by lack of access to hands-on, non-pharmacological care. Student loan forgiveness and continued access to the Canada Student Financial Assistance Program can be the difference between a chiropractor staying in a community or never coming back at all. And for patients, it can be the difference between independence and disability. This is not about supporting one profession. It is about supporting patients. It is about ensuring Canadians, no matter where they live, can access timely, non-invasive care that keeps them mobile, working, and connected to their communities. The Canadian Chiropractic Association is asking for a practical and targeted solution. Ensure chiropractic students retain access to federal student financial assistance and that graduates are eligible for student loan forgiveness when they practice in Canada, regardless of where they are trained, provided their education is, of course, accredited. This is a workforce issue, it is an access issue, and above all, it is a patient issue. Thank you for your time, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Azad. We'll now move to Mr. Stephenson for 5 minutes or less.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for your opportunity to speak with you today about work-integrated learning and the role it must play in building a stronger, more productive Canada. My name is Dana Stevenson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ripen, a Canadian-founded future of work platform transforming how learners and employers connect to build the skills that drive productivity and growth. Since 2017, Ripen has delivered more than 300,000 work-integrated learning experiences in partnership with over 50,000 employers. 85% of those are small, medium, and micro-sized businesses. They collaborate on real projects that close skills gaps and improve employment outcomes. So I want to begin by thanking the Government of Canada for its investment in Budget 2025 to advance work-integrated learning through the Student Work Placement Program and the Innovative Work-Integrated Learning Program that we are involved in with BioTalent. This investment signals a clear commitment to connecting learning with work, strengthening Canada's talent pipeline, and supporting the small and medium-sized businesses that power our economy. Canada faces a generational productivity challenge. The Prime Minister's mandate letter is clear. Our long-standing weak productivity is straining government finances, constraining economic growth, and threatening the sustainability of the investments required to drive innovation and long-term prosperity. At the same time, rapid advances in artificial intelligence and major infrastructure investments create an opportunity for millions of Canadians to access new and rewarding careers, provided they can develop relevant skills quickly. Work-integrated learning provides that bridge. When delivered at scale with low friction, it addresses both productivity and talent pipeline challenges. Through the Federal Innovative Work-Integrated Learning Initiative, Ripen launched our flagship program, Level Up, in 2021 to connect post-secondary learners with small, medium, and micro-sized enterprises across Canada. Level Up replaced a complex wage subsidy system with a streamlined digital model that automates contracts, payments, and compliance, reducing administrative burden and red tape and improving cost efficiency. The result is a program that delivers work-integrated learning experiences for less than $2,000 all in, roughly 1/4 of the cost of traditional programs. This demonstrates public investment can focus on outcomes while catalyzing private participation. To date, since 2021, Ripen, through Level Up, Ripen has delivered over 37,000 ongoing paid student experiences across Canada and leveraged significant co-investment. 66% of participating learners self-identify as members of underrepresented groups, and 84% of participating SMEs report productivity and efficiency gains. 76% of a representative sample of learners receive a job offer right after the experience. So building on this foundation, Ripen launched Future Path in 2025. This is an employer co-investment model in which businesses fund half of the student stipends. This approach has already generated substantial private sector investment and demonstrates a fiscally responsible pathway in which government costs decrease as employer participation grows. So continued multi-year federal investment will allow Canada to scale proven models that deliver measurable outcomes, attract additional co-investment, and strengthen Canada's position in the future of work. But there is an opportunity to go further. Canada needs a nationwide talent network, web-based talent network that connects learners and employers in real time, aligning training and labor market demand, and expands access to meaningful work-integrated learning opportunities across regions and sectors to all students who deserve. Mr. Chair, the mandate letter calls for focus, determination, and results. The Student Work Placement Program and the Innovative Work-Integrated Learning Program, alongside Level Up and Future Path, that demonstrate what is possible when work-integrated learning is designed for scale, efficiency, and outcomes. So with continued federal leadership, Canada can strengthen productivity, support SMEs, and ensure learners and workers across the country can fully participate in the future of work. Thank you. I welcome the committee's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. We'll begin now with the first round of questioning, which are 6 minutes, with Ms. Goodrich for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the witnesses for being here today. It's lovely to see all of you. I think I'm going to start out with you, Dr. Azad. So I actually was very fortunate when I first started into my political space. I actually worked for Dr. Colin Carey, who is a chiropractor. And so I got to learn a lot of some of those unique challenges that exist in that space. And I remember calling him when I was pregnant because I was getting a lot of pain. And I said, well, I don't want to take drugs, so what are the options? And he recommended that I look into Webster technique and find someone that specialized in the Webster method for chiropractic, and it made all the difference. It went from me having a hard time sitting for long periods of time to being able to complete my normal space with no pain and just 1 or 2 appointments a week. And I think that it just goes to show that there are things that can be done, and it's effectively just simple types of stretching. So this is an important piece. How many students do the 2 Canadian institutions put out every year in terms of graduates?
Yeah, thank you, and I'm so glad that you got benefit from the care. CMCC, approximately 200 students in each class, so 200 graduate, and UQTR between 40 and 50.
Okay, and so then we're not talking about tons. How many are retiring every year?
Yes, that's a great question. We do see, actually I just looked at my membership metrics report, and we are seeing higher rates of chiropractors retiring compared to how many are coming in.
So we're having more people retire, fewer people getting trained in Canada to replace just the ones that we currently have. And are there disparities in accessing chiropractic services right now?
Yes, there are. So we're actually looking into this and looking at where the majority of our chiropractors are located. We're working with Ontario Tech University to try and map this out, and we are seeing, we have decreased chiropractors in rural and remote communities, and sometimes those are the communities that require the most care. We see a higher incidence of musculoskeletal conditions in those communities, especially Indigenous communities.
No, and I appreciate that. So the change in the BIA is extremely troubling. May I ask, how many of your friends studied abroad because they couldn't get into a Canadian institution?
I myself studied abroad. I'm a graduate from Palmer College in the U.S. Approximately 30%, a little over 30% of our members are trained overseas, primarily in the United States, where the majority of the chiropractic programs are, and there are some international. And for example, in Bournemouth, England, there's a very well-respected program. Some in New Zealand, Australia.
So 30% of your current membership has studied abroad, outside of Canada.
Yes.
Of those, could you give perhaps a bit of a guess as to how many of those were Canadians that were forced to go abroad to study?
Yeah, I mean, so these are members of the Canadian Chiropractic Association. So 30% of them left, studied, and came back, and now are our members. So yeah, I mean, it's impossible for CMCC and UQTR to meet the needs. They can increase enrollment, sure, but it's only 2 programs. It's just impossible for an entire nation to be serviced with 2 institutions.
No, and I appreciate that. And then I think I'm going to change course a little bit. Mr. Stevenson, I know you and I have had an opportunity to meet before, and your program and your organization does some really wonderful work-integrated learning. And I know I benefited as a university student to get to go and do summer jobs in large organizations, and that taught me a lot more than just the classroom studies. I actually learned a lot about how bureaucracies sometimes just don't work. And I was just wondering if you could explain how your guys' program delivers for students' needs today and how they actually get access into long-term jobs.
Thank you for the question. So So when most people think about work integrated learning, they typically think of traditional internships and co-op programs or apprenticeship programs, which are absolutely fantastic. The research shows over and over again there's a huge ROI on the investment in these programs, and students participating in these programs are leading to higher wages, higher employment outcomes, better job satisfaction, et cetera. The major challenge that we see in Canada, but we work abroad as well, it's a global challenge, is there's a supply and demand problem. There is no shortage of demand from students looking for high quality, high impact work integrated learning experiences, but there's just not enough supply. Not enough of our employers are participating in these programs, especially small, medium-sized businesses. They face an enormous amount of barriers. They don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the time, as Rob mentioned, they don't have the HR personnel. And so a program like ours, we act as an intermediary. And with our Level Up and Future Path program, we actually act as the payer of record. And so these are short, flexible, project-based experiences. They're typically about 60 hours. They can range from 20 to upwards to 420. They're typically done asynchronously, so it breaks down geographical barriers. Students can participate either individually or in groups. They can participate. They can fit it around other jobs. They can fit it that they need to retain to continue paying for their education. They can fit it around other intense workloads. But the key piece here is we're removing friction for students to participate. We're increasing the supply by getting small and micro businesses to participate when they wouldn't have otherwise participated. We act as the payer of record. We pay the students on behalf of the employers. The Government of Canada provides funding, which we use to subsidize the wages to encourage more employers to participate and de-risk it for them and pay the students directly. And we cover all of the paperwork.
Thank you, Ms. Goodrich. We'll
Thank you.
Move to Ms. Fancy for 6 minutes.
Yes, thank you everybody for coming today. It's such a privilege to be able to discuss these topics and help inform policy and practice. I know today for Ripon with Mr. Stevenson and with Mr. Henderson as a former educator, you know, it's been my lifelong mission to help get those kiddos employed as well as with you, Doctor. So my first degree was actually pre-medical biology. And I chose to end up teaching math and science instead of actually practicing. But the connection of the flourishing with the biomedical field right now really suggests, you know, we need to have these pathway programs for our youth and getting them interested. Well, not only interested, but also integrated into these larger scaled careers. My first question today is actually for Mr. Stevenson. It's great seeing you again. I've got a question in regards to experience. So from Ripon's experience and what you've been able to pull off since 2017, you mentioned 30,000 employers and having over 300,000 children, or youth, sorry, be able to run through your programs. How does reducing financial pressure on students help them participate in work integrated learning opportunities?
There are many students have to hold down a job while going to post-secondary that doesn't necessarily relate to their careers. It's great experience nonetheless, but it's not necessarily relevant to what their actual career interests are. It's not necessarily relevant to building the skills and the professional connections in the sector or the area of interest for them. And that can be a huge barrier for them. So reducing financial pressure and offering opportunities to engage in work integrated learning experiences that are paid really contribute to ensuring that students get the experience, the professional connections that they need and deserve to land meaningful employment post-graduation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I myself I went through the Federal Work Experience Program as a kid coming from a rural, remote community, and I probably wouldn't have been able to have the jobs that I did during school as well as in the summers when I was home if I didn't have programs like that. Second question, also to Mr. Stevenson this time, how do these experiences improve the completion rates and ease the transition from school to work with those co-op or level up programs? So
there's broad evidence out there that these high impact practices lead to higher completion rates because students are actually connecting their learning to the real world. They can see how their learning will actually help prepare them for future roles that they're interested in. It also helps them with career clarity. Often students, if you can get these experiences to students earlier on, it can help them actually identify which pathway to take that actually aligns more with their interests, their skills, and their motivation, which encourages, of course, a completion rate. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're trying to solve for here is signaling. There is employers struggle today to identify talent and have confidence that the talent has the skills, the experience, and is a good cultural fit for upcoming roles in the organization. When students graduate with a portfolio of work experiences, in our world, these are project-based experiences, but they could be full-time experiences as well. That gives the employer a lot of confidence that they have skills that have been verified and validated by employers, not just their academic institution that they're enrolled in. That they've tried out multiple different industries, they've tried out multiple different types and sizes of organizations, and they have a lot of confidence in articulating their skills and their experience and why they would be a good fit for that organization. That sends a very strong positive signal that employers can trust, that actually brings more employers to the table to solve, again, that supply and demand challenge, getting more employers to actually invest in early career talent and early career training.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Stevenson. My next line of questioning, and I'm seeing your head kind of shake up and down, Mr. Henderson, for a lot of what Mr. Stevenson has said. I don't know, Mr. Stevenson, if you can see that while you were talking, but there's a lot of resignation or similarities in yourself and Mr. Henderson today. Mr. Henderson, I'm wondering, how do you think that ensuring student financial assistance supports high-quality, accountable training to help employers access the skills and talent that they need?
Well, specifically in Canada's bioeconomy, we're probably the most educated vertical industry that there is. In fact, that a degree or a college certificate is sort of an entry-level position to get into the industry. For students, as I think Dana eloquently stated, it is very, very difficult science itself is a difficult discipline, STEM. And at the same time, in order to be able to get a high enough GPA and to be able to continue to thrive, it's very difficult for students to do that with a non-industry position for them to gain money to do that. For them to be able to do that within the industry is really pivotal. It actually shortens their ability to enter the industry because they're getting that absolutely important industry experience that small and medium-sized enterprises. A lot of times when we're talking about science organizations, we think about labs, but these are businesses. They do marketing, they do sales, they do HR and everything else. And while our colleges and universities are second to none in the world in teaching the theory of science, they sometimes struggle with the business of science. And this is so pivotal to them. From work-integrated learning and the student work placement program in particular, bridges two gaps. Number one, it provides them the financial.
Mr. Henderson,
there we go.
We're well over. You can
I'll do the second
continue on with that.
And please, if you have other things to say, please don't hesitate.
We're now moving to Madame LaRouche. Madame LaRouche pour.
Madame LaRouche, Madame LaRouche, you have 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you to our witnesses for being here, Mr. Stevenson, Mr. Henderson, Ms. Azad. We're meeting again. I remember having met you to talk about specific issues concerning your own professions. So I wanted to say that this is a service that we use. It's care that we use regularly in my family for all kinds of problems of health. We know that chiropractic is excellent in terms of prevention and in order to take care of various health problems. So I'll start with you, because you opened the door when you replied to one of the questions from my Conservative colleagues. You said that 30% are trained in the U.S., New Zealand, and Australia. I'd like to go a bit further. Why are the students going specifically to those places, and what are the good practices that we can use in our recommendations related to this? So
thank you very much for the question. It's nice to see you again. I would say, you know, again, there are only 2 programs here in Canada, so there are limited number of seats for these students. They have to go overseas. As I said, I myself have gone overseas to get my degree, but you know, I'm now fully immersed here in the chiropractic community in Canada, you know, it's. From a financial perspective, it's very costly to get a chiropractic degree. So these assistance programs are essential for our students to be able to, one, get the degree, but then also start practices in communities and be able to, you know, live and pay back all of this financial assistance. It sometimes can be the difference between someone being able to access the chiropractic program or not. And if we don't have enough chiropractors to service the needs, that the burden of musculoskeletal conditions in this country is huge, and it's costing the economy billions of dollars. So we need more professionals that can manage the disability that's coming. We have an aging population. We need more rehabilitation specialists and experts, and chiropractors can certainly help fill that need.
Donc, si je comprends bien, en fait...
So, if I understand, well, I'm asking a question, maybe you can answer in 30 seconds. What or how could the federal government support training, which is a problem for you? You talked about 2 problems, only one at University of Trois-Rivières, while respecting the jurisdiction which Quebec have in terms of education, among other things.
I think, firstly, making sure the financial assistance remains, but also the student loan forgiveness program. We were excluded as a profession from the student loan forgiveness program, and I think that's a challenge for us. We want to encourage more students to go into rural and remote communities, and as I said, there is a need. So I think bookending this, financial assistance in the beginning so that they can get the training that's required, and then student loan forgiveness so they can come back and service communities here in Canada.
Parfait. Merci.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I would like to take a bit of time to do things properly according to the rules that are available in this committee. So given that I'm going to table a motion, I'd ask for unanimous consent in order to debate it. So I won't be asking for debate right away. We'll see. It will be the committee's decision. So that's how it needs to happen. So considering that the minister informed the House that there were 85,000 people who are touched by errors in treatment because of the Curum app, that the committee asked the Minister of Families and others to ask the minister to appear before the committee. It's to follow up on the motion adopted by this committee that there be 2 moments of study with 2 ministers with the Curum file. And we are currently distributing the motion in both official languages so that you can become aware of it. But I know that I'm filing this on the floor. I know that I can't ask for debate immediately. There has to be a unanimous consent. I'm aware of that, Mr. Chair.
This is routine for the committee to do. Madame LaRouche has introduced a motion, but it did not have the 48-hour notice, and it was not directly related to discussion currently before the committee. So in order to debate it, it would require unanimous consent. And Madame LaRouche, that's what you're asking, oui?
But point of order, I think, if I understood right, she was requesting that the motion be adopted on unanimous consent, not that be debated on unanimous consent.
She used debate in her terminology.
It's a fairly routine request for information from my view.
Is it simply to be adopted or debated? She used the term debated.
Donc, selon les règlements, quand on dépose...
According to the regulation, if we file 48 hours ahead of time or within the rules. But if we table a motion on the floor, we can't ask for immediate debate, as was done in the last meeting, for a motion. And if it's related to... so I'm asking simply unanimous consent to debate this. If there is not unanimity of the committee, it has been filed, but there's no debate.
Clear. Madame de Rocher.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify what our colleague said, because last time the motion that was tabled on the National School Food Program was a topic that was being discussed at that point, and according to the rules, we can debate about a topic that is being currently discussed at the committee. That's why it was tabled. That's why it could have been debated if the colleagues had wished to debate it, but colleagues did not want to do that. That's okay. We'll come back to it. I just wanted to clarify, because it was according to rules.
LaRouche. Madame LaRouche, are you simply just asking permission to have the motion tabled? Is that what I'm getting? Okay. This is relatively simple. It's tabling. We'll suspend.
Chair, can we just defer this to the end of the meeting? That if there needs to be discussion or the Liberals want to review the motion, can we just out of respect
Madame
for the
LaRouche, are you okay with deferring to? I'll give 5 minutes at the end of the meeting to discuss.
Pour le moment, mais de toute façon.
For the moment, yes. But regardless, if it's adopted, so I just knew that I needed unanimous consent in order to debate it. If you want to defer that to the end of the meeting, that's fine.
In order, in bringing it in your timeline, and the procedure was right, you needed a request because it was not currently being debated on the committee. So you agreed to table it until the end. I will give you commitment. We will have enough time to return to this. So with that, Madame LaRouche, you still have a minute left, a minute or so. You still have a minute, almost 2 left in your 6 minutes.
Merci, j'avais arrêté mon minuteur, si vous me...
Thank you. I had paused my chronometer. But Ms. Azad, then I would like to end my turn, maybe in 30 seconds. What are the specific problems in terms of access to the care, the chiropractic care in remote areas? If you can summarize what the challenges are.
There are a few challenges. One, access. We are, in order to access our care, many patients have to pay. It's private. So cost certainly is a barrier. That's why we're advocating to get chiropractors included into the non-insured health benefits program, so Indigenous communities can access our care. In rural communities, sometimes there's just not enough. There's not enough chiropractors available for patients to see. They're having to travel great distances to receive very important, timely care. So I would say those are the largest barriers. Thank you for the question.
OK, bon, ben, mon Dieu, vous êtes...
Well, perfect. So, in remote areas, there is a shortage, just to make the connection. There's a shortage of schools. There are only 2 schools. People go abroad, and there are specific challenges in remote areas. So how can we find solutions in order to improve the succession? Maybe if you have a few hints.
This cut out. Can you repeat the last bit?
Je disais, donc, vous avez parlé qu'il y avait...
So you said that there's a shortage of schools, about challenges in remote areas. What is the impact for succession in terms of access to chiropractic care in remote areas? What measures can be taken to improve the situation for the future?
Absolutely. I would say, one, allowing students to be able to go overseas to get the training and come back. As I said, 30% of our members do that and are here. Then improving access. I really feel in the healthcare system we need more team-based care, integrated care.
We're going over. My fault. I was not watching the clock. But everybody goes over. Mr. Janis for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to all our witnesses. There's been some discussion today about work-integrated learning, and I don't think I'll get a chance to ask those witnesses questions, but I do want to underline that Conservatives believe very strongly in the importance of work-integrated learning. We believe these programs should have sustained and predictable funding. We also believe that work-integrated learning should be normalized. It should be the norm rather than the exception. The more students across disciplines who can be working in jobs relevant to their fields as part of their learning will be able, I think, in many cases, to transition to the workforce much more easily. Secondly, we've had a lot of discussion today about concerns people have regarding changes in the Liberal budget that impact students studying at private institutions. In many cases, studying at those institutions because there simply are not programs available at public institutions that accord with the demand for those skills in the marketplace. With that in mind, I'm going to provide a notice of motion. I'm not moving it. I'm not asking for support on it today. So people will have lots of time to consider it. The motion I'm putting on notice is that the committee report to the House that it opposes discrimination against students in the distribution of student grants based on the type of regulated institutions where students are studying. So I hope we'll have an opportunity in response to the feedback we received to debate that and adopt that motion at some point to underline concerns that the committee have with the direction from the government on this. And I think, frankly, it's consistent with some of the things some of the members have said across the way today about the value of there being a link between labour market demand and the student grants that are available. So having said that, a couple of questions for you, Dr. Azad. You said 2 programs here in Canada, and you talked about the reliance on training outside of the country. What you didn't speak to is, from my understanding, the institutions that are in Canada are also private institutions. Now, they're private, not-for-profit, if I'm correct, so they would not be impacted by the budget policy. But that underlines for me that these programs are not being offered at public institutions, which means that we might hope that there would be an expansion in the availability of these programs in Canada, but likely that expansion would not be on the public institution side, it would be on the private side. So if a private for-profit institution saw the demand, saw the opportunity, and wanted to get into this, they would be affected by the policy. So with an eye to how we can maybe grow the availability of this training here in Canada, how would the budget policy which proposes to cut off grants for students studying in Canada at private for-profit institutions, how would that affect trying to address the gaps in training?
Yeah, thank you for the question. To become a chiropractor, it's a significant financial burden, and so if you're not able to get financial assistance through these national student loans, it just becomes very cost prohibitive, even for a student here in Canada to be able to attend, CMCC, for example, in Toronto. Our students are graduating with approximately $150,000 to $200,000 in debt, and that's significant. It's difficult. So I would say it would be detrimental for the programs here as well. As far as not being in the public system, I'd love to be able to see a chiropractic program in some of the public universities. Just like to be on record for that. That I think would be an excellent way to help with this resource problem that we're having. Because, and again, I will say, the next issue that this country is going to face is disability and the need. We have an unmet need for rehabilitation services in this country, and we need to work together to solve that.
Yeah, thank you. And just so I have the time left, what we've put forward as Conservatives as part of our youth jobs plan is that grants be linked to labour market demand, that there's an opportunity that grant value could magnify those market signals to students so that they have that information. Also, hey, you can study whatever you want, but if you're getting a grant, maybe that should be tied to the needs of the labour market. What are your thoughts on, instead of discriminating based on institutions, linking back to where the demand is?
Well, it would be good for chiropractic because the demand is huge. As I said, when you look at the issues that we're facing in this country when it comes to musculoskeletal conditions, we do not have enough providers. And I would even say, my colleagues in physiotherapy as well. We work together all the time. I think we need more chiropractors. We need more rehabilitation experts.
Thank you.
Mr. Janus. Monsieur Joseph, pour
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
6 minutes. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here and for the work that you do in your respective fields. The discussion that we're having now is directly related to central priorities of Budget 2025. The strengthening of succession and improving access to essential services for Canadians and Quebecers, especially in underserved areas, be it supporting innovation, the economy, and broadening opportunities for young people, or to ensure better coverage of health care. These goals have a clear objective to create a resilient economy. So, Mr. Robert Anderson, what would the risks would be for innovation if this funding was not renewed on the long term?
If the funding for the student work placement program was not renewed, there's not a clear talent pipeline between academia and small and medium-sized enterprises. One of the challenges within Canada is there seems to be a gulf between those two things. The student work placement program, from a sustainable, it has been now funded for 8 years. I would say 8 years ago, and BioTalent Canada was one of the initial providers of the program. At the beginning, we had to convince employers of the value of hiring students with no work experience through a federally funded program like the Student Work Placement Program. Right now, thanks to organizations like Ripen, BioTalent Canada, and the other providers, employers depend on the program now for that talent pipeline. Upwards of 200,000 students a year are employed in all industries through this program. The issue that we have now is you're going to have, and this is the problem when you have scientific organizations, is you may have a wonderful molecule that could cure a myriad of diseases, or a wonderful medical device that could be incredible intellectual property in Canada, but it's sitting on a shelf because there's not the support within the organization to commercialize it. And this program allows companies to get the only talent that's available to them, fresh talent, because there is a shortage right now in Canada's bioeconomy. We're expecting 65,000 workers short by the year 2029. This fast tracks students into those innovative positions so that they can commercialize. And without it, you're going to have many companies and many Canadian innovations and international intellectual property stalled as a result of it, if there isn't sustainable funding to this program.
So now we want to talk about the concrete impact of these measures in the field. So another question. Can you see a direct link between that investment, the retention of young talent in the country? I'm talking about Quebec and Canada.
The question correctly, do I see a direct link in terms of the investment to that? Absolutely. There's no question. In terms of the two greatest challenges that face small and medium-sized enterprises in Canada's bioeconomy, access to capital is number one, and access to talent is always very shortly behind as number two. Now, those actually flipped during COVID. In fact, that there was access to talent was their biggest issue. So this program is one of the few ones that actually address both needs from a small and medium-sized enterprise. So there's no question that the two are completely linked, and you will find that a lot of the innovations that are coming through Canada's bioeconomy are coming from these small and medium-sized enterprises, and it's directly linked to access to that talent pipeline.
Peut-être que je vais vous couper si j'ai une troisième question.
I have a third question. Do I have time? 40 seconds. So I saw that you talked about multi-year funding for the student work placement program. What were the sustainable results, the most sustainable results so far?
The sustainable results is the program has overachieved on its diversity and inclusion goals in terms of employing underrepresented students. There's no question it's been a resounding success of that. Not only that, but employers have stated in the majority of cases, students would not have been employed without the program. And second of all, there's an over 85% success rate in terms of satisfaction, both on the student and on the employer side for this program. It has been an exceptionally successful program in almost every metric that's possible, which is why it is deserving of sustainable funding.
Merci,
Thank you. Merci, Monsieur Joseph. Madame Larouche.
Ms. Larouche, you have 2.5 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. So now I would like to speak to you, Mr. Henderson, for my second turn. You, in answer to a colleague's question, you talked about a chasm between, so that's a very strong word, between the number of students that are coming out according to market needs. You're saying something about 65,000 people. I'd like to know what that figure was. 65,000 students.
Intelligence study that was done, released shortly after COVID, stated that right now in Canada's biotech industry, there are going to be 65,000 unfilled positions by the year 2029. Now, those are amongst three different areas: research and development, industry agnostic positions such as HR, marketing, and sales, and in bioprocessing and biomanufacturing. Now, this affects directly Canada's defense policy, Canada's health emergency readiness, because, of course, as we saw in COVID, it is the biotech industry that's going to be responsible for the domestic manufacture of vaccines in the face of another pandemic. So, obviously, this is of great concern not only to the bioeconomy but for Canadians' health safety.
Donc, votre raisonnement, quel message on...
So, what message should we promote, knowing the importance of research and development in science, when we cut in the agricultural research centers and we don't find solutions to change this shortage in workforce? The consequences could be very serious.
Very serious indeed, which is why any program specifically to fast track students into paid positions and into the bioeconomy should be supported through a sustained and expanded funding. And that is one of the reasons why we applaud the decision to expand and extend the student work placement program. And we think that there's even room for improvement in order to combat the very issue that you addressed, Madame Larouche.
Merci, Madame Larouche.
Thank you, Ms. Larouche.
To the witnesses, so they could leave, but I did give, I need a few moments to clarify an item with the committee. So thank you, witnesses, for appearing. And just before you do, Robert Henderson, my local MLA is Robert Henderson, so I was a little confused. Yes, and Dr. Azad, a summer student that worked for me the last 3 years. This is his final year of the Toronto Chiropractic. He will be a doctor shortly, and I'm sure he will serve Canadians well. So thank you for coming in, and Mr. Stevenson. So you can leave. I'm going to go back to Madame Larouche, and I just want to clarify, as I indicated, Madame Larouche, Mr. Janus simply gave notice of his intent to move a motion, which he could do. I'm still not clear. If you were simply giving notice to move your motion, then it is already on record that you have given notice that you will be moving the motion. To debate that motion now would need unanimous consent of this committee. I don't think that's where we're going. So could you clarify, Madame LaRoche?
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, mais
Thank you, Chair. This motion simply follows up the appearance of the minister. She talked about 85,000 people, so it doesn't really need a lot of debate. It's simply that we can maybe wait for her to come back to committee to specifically discuss this issue, given that it comes from figures that she provided in the committee. It shouldn't be a problem to inform her so that we could be well prepared for her appearance before the committee.
The debate, which it can't go because the motion did not have the 48 hours, so you were within your perspective to give notice to move it. If it was to actually move it to debate, I would need to get unanimous consent from the committee at this moment. Is there unanimous consent from the committee to debate the motion of Madame LaRoche? You do not have unanimous consent, so Madame LaRoche, you can bring it up at the next time the committee meets because it will have time. With that, Mr. Jonas, did you? I have a couple of items that I.
Yeah, Chair. I'd like to move that the committee proceed to committee business for the purposes of considering the motion of Ms. LaRoche. That's a dilatory motion.
I'm going to suspend for a moment. The committee is suspended for a couple of minutes. Spend. Session, and I don't have a clear indication of a resource time, so we do have a few moments. What I did have when I moved to suspend was a motion by Mr. Janis that the committee move to committee business, which is in order at any time. And so I must dispense with that motion. So I'll ask the clerk to call a recorded vote on the motion of Mr. Janis for the committee to move into committee business.
Madame Desrochers.
It's a vote.
Miss Fancy. No. Monsieur Joseph.
No.
Miss Koutrakis.
No.
Mr. Janis.
Wait.
Mr. Seaback.
Yes.
Miss Goodridge.
Oui.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Madame Larouche.
Oui.
5 yeas, 4 nays.
We'll spend again when we convert to committee business. We don't have, okay. Okay, the motion has been carried. Madame Desroches had her hand, and then
Mr. Janis had his hand up.
I'm the chair. Mr. Janis, I'll go to Madame Desroches. Madame Desrochers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to point out that what's happening in this committee right now, it's political games that the opposition have perfected over time. And it's meant to obstruct any progress that the government wants to do on the agenda that it's been elected to implement, right? So basically, delaying and delaying so that after the opposition can say we are not moving fast enough in order to address it. Again, today, the member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan has indicated that there's another motion yet coming the way of this committee. There was a motion that was, again, given by our colleague from the Bloc. At our previous meeting, there was another motion. So every meeting that we have, that we are meant to actually study the important business that's been put before us, we are wasting time adding yet more things to. There are currently 15 motions on notice, 15, right? The first motion that we adopted in this committee was from the opposition. It included 3 important studies, right? Youth unemployment, the labor code, and I believe seasonal workers, I think, right? We have not even completed any of those, and yet we're adding something every week, again, in the spirit of delaying the business of the government. We've been very collaborative on most of these motions, right? I would like to propose that we resume, so we could do something constructive today with the time we have left, that we propose resuming debate on the motion that was put forward by my colleague on the National School Food Program 2 meetings ago, and so we could resume debates on that motion. That's my proposal. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's a dilatory motion. It's been moved that we resume to debate, which was adjourned at the last meeting.
Sorry, Chair, just a point of order. When I moved my motion,
dilatory motion, Mr. Janis, that was moved. I'll call a vote on the motion of Mr. Roche to return to debate on Madame Koutrakis' motion that was adjourned. Clerk, record a vote on the motion of Mr. Roche to return to the adjourned debate of Madame Koutrakis.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Madame Desrochers.
Oui.
Miss Fancy.
Yes.
Monsieur Joseph.
Oui.
Miss Koutrakis.
Oui.
Mr. Janis.
no.
Mr. Seaback.
No.
Miss Goodridge.
No.
Mr. Collins.
No.
Sorry, Mr. Reynolds. Madame Larouche.
Monsieur le Président, excusez-moi, là, mais je...
Mr. Chair, I apologize, but there was a motion. Otherwise, I will ask for a suspension for a few minutes in order to think about which motion to debate. Ms. Larouche?
Be concluded. It must be concluded, Madame LaRoche, the motion was to return to the debate that was adjourned on the motion on the school food program. I must conclude this vote.
Alors non, si c'est pour revenir, on avait...
No, so if it's to come back, no.
Yeas.
Okay, so then so the motion was defeated to return to debate. I had a speaking order was Mr. Jennis and then Ms. Goodrich. Mr. Jennis.
Sure. Yeah, Chair, I have a lot of respect for all members around this table. I think there are some maybe misunderstandings that that could be clarified around some aspects of process. The motion that the bloc has moved that we're supportive of is a simple request for information. It is not a new study motion. It does not take the committee's time. It is a request for information from the government that relates to an existing study that the committee has agreed, I think, unanimously to undertake. So I don't want to impute any motives here, but I think it does suggest a bit of a misunderstanding of process to suggest that a request for information as part of an existing approved study is somehow delaying the work of this committee. These motions on committees I've been on in the past, these types of requests for information are very routine. My only suggestion would have been that it might not have even been necessary to move a motion. It might be the sort of thing that the committee kind of just agrees to via consent. But in any event, I hope we can get this adopted quickly. So I'll just leave my comments there. Hopefully, then you'll be able to go to Ms. LaRouche, who can actually formally move this motion, and then we'll be able to get it adopted. So I'll end my comments there.
Are you concluded, Mr. Jennis? I now have Ms. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank him for clarifying those pieces because I think it's a misunderstanding. Like, it's very interesting when the Liberals move a motion and table drop a motion on a subject that we were studying, and so it was well within their right to table drop it, and I will recognize that as a fact. That's A-OK, that's fine, that's not obstruction in any capacity as far as they're concerned. However, when we bring forward a very reasonable motion from the Bloc that's just about producing documents, somehow this is obstruction. Like, they are accusing and imputing false motives onto the opposition members because they don't like that we're just trying to figure this out. I think it's really incumbent on us to figure out where exactly are these delays? The minister has admitted there are 85,000. So if there's 85,000, are they mostly in Quebec? Are they spread out across the country? No, there isn't.
Excuse?
Moi, j'ai cru constater que je vais réitérer.
I see that I repeated what I said last time. I see that my opposition colleague is playing a game, and it's very dangerous.
Madame Goodrich, you had the floor.
Again, I appreciate that the members opposite perhaps need to learn a little bit about the Green Book and figure out some of these rules. What we're doing is completely within order. This is something that is totally reasonable. This is not a big ask. This is not something complicated or challenging. We are simply asking for documents.
Madame De Roche, clearly
I just
state
take
your point.
offense with implying that we're not doing our work and like implying
Okay,
that
thank you.
perhaps we
That-
should study
that
the
is not-
Green Book.
Thank you.
That is not a
Again,
point of order.
so
Stop insulting.
Madame De Roche,
I'm not insulting.
I mean,
I'm not implying that they aren't doing their work. I'm simply advising that you perhaps do not understand the process and the procedure as well as required to be able to understand what's going on right now and what has happened in some of these things. And they're accusing us of obstruction when they're the ones obstructing things at every step. Thank you.
order, committee, order. Are you concluded, Madame Goodrich? Okay, I now have Madame LaRouche. Madame LaRouche, you have the floor. Order, please. Madame LaRouche has the floor.
Monsieur le Président.
Chair, the objective is not obstruction. It's simply something that we agreed on so that we could shed light on the cases, because the minister said 85,000, we would like that to be ready for the next meeting. I would like us to move forward at this committee. You have a motion. I would have an amendment to deal with this technicality to get the numbers, and then we can agree on your motion. I just have an amendment to propose. Simply, let's deal with this technical issue, then we'll talk about your motion. Because I said it, that we weren't against the National School Food Program. So I just have a very small amendment, given that we're very busy. But first, let's agree on this one, because it's a technical issue. Let's not get bogged down, and then we'll quickly go forward on your motion.
I have Madame de Rocher. You ceded the floor, Ms. LaRoche. Madame de Rocher.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm sorry. I also wanted to file the motion because I was talking about technicalities, and I want the Liberals to hear me that I will collaborate for what's coming up. Just that we could deal with this. I'm forgetting things. I really want to move forward, so I'm tabling my motion and to have an amendment later. But considering that the minister informed the House that 85,000 people have been affected by processing errors caused by the Curum software, that the committee request that the Department of Employment and Families provide the number of cases broken down by region no later than the day the minister will appear before the committee. I'm tabling that motion. And maybe there's an amendment I can add to deal with that quickly. And we could pass to the other motion.
De Rocher
Oui,
and
merci
Mr. Janus.
beaucoup. Merci beaucoup,
And we
Monsieur
are
le
running out
Président.
of time.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I want to repeat, I think that the MP is asking for something totally reasonable and rational. And it's not on that point that we're objecting today. It's because we're never able to do work in the committee, because every time there's a problem. This could have been dealt with by an email to the committee, or we could have asked the minister that just to the minister before she would appear. So why are we adding another motion in order, and then later having to ask for a consensus, a motion without notice that was presented now. At almost every meeting, motions are presented in this way, and we're really creating obstacles for the work of the committee. We're debating, we're arguing. It's not what we should be doing. It's not what Canadians expect us to do. They expect us. I don't know if you're taking photos of me, Laila, but I really find that being disrespectful, if that's what you're doing, because that seems to be what you're doing with your camera.
We're not allowed to take photos.
J'espère, mais merci.
Just a point of order. Clearly state the point of order.
We are not allowed to take photos in here. There was no
Correct.
way I was taking a photo
Thank
in
you.
here. I understand the rules. Thank
Madam
you.
Goodrich.
OK.
Madame
Si je
de
peux-
Rocher, you
Parfait,
have the
merci.
floor.
Si je peux continuer.
Yes, thank you. I'll continue. So, as I was saying, it's not that we're opposed to the motion. It's that since the beginning of this committee's beginning to work, we were very collaborative. We worked to accept proposals from the opposition, issues that were important. We've done our work, and now we've got 15 motions that are still somewhere in the ether.
Their next steps. Et on n'est même pas capable d'y arriver.
And we're not even able to get there because every week there's something else being added on. So I think it's slightly disrespectful to Canadian taxpayers expecting that we do serious work. There are serious issues that we have to study. Our colleague from Sherwood Park has often raised the issue of the unemployment among youth. That's important. Our MP Reynolds also often raised the issue of workers in qualified trades. And that's a central issue to everything we want to do to build the Canada of tomorrow. We need it. But we unfortunately can't get to study those issues that are important. We really want to address the problems of the National School Food Program. There are important points in the budget that we can't get to that will help Canadians. The dental plan is more than 6 million Canadians. The National School Food Program is 58,000 children in Alberta, thousands of children in Quebec, thousands of children in Nova Scotia, and we're not even able to start discussing that program because the opposition, the Conservatives, are opposed to it. I'm not saying that the Bloc is opposing it. The Bloc is saying that they do approve it, but they don't want to debate the motion we presented. So we can conclude what we want from that. But so, Chair, I would really like to ask our colleagues if we can't do constructive work in this committee, please. Thank you. Call to order.
Who had his hand up? There is a committee that's starting here at 11 o'clock. We are running out of time. This does not appear that it's going to get resolved at this meeting. So I'm briefly to Mr. Janis. Briefly, Mr. Janis.
Okay, Chair. I'll try to get through a couple things just quickly. I think Ms. DesRochers' point is that while the rules permit motions to be tabled without notice under certain circumstances, it is a good practice to inform colleagues when possible. And I very much agree with that. I think objectively, that is how I have carried myself in this committee, is informing colleagues of intent to put forward motions. I put a motion on notice today, for example, which I was entitled to move and did not move. Colleagues will have an opportunity to think about that. I will say that there have been instances where Liberals have moved motions without notice, as well as Bloc members. So, you know, I think if the point Mr. Rocher is making is let's endeavour to have a practice where we discuss and provide notice in advance, even when not strictly speaking required, I agree that that's a good practice. Although I will say, with respect to this motion of Ms. LaRoche, it's a request for information on an existing study, which is typically a minor thing, but the Liberals have said they support it. So good. I guess the only suggestion I would have is. Okay, I'm going to propose, I don't think we're going to get it done. I'm going to propose this amendment so that people have it, and then we can come back to it. The amendment can be distributed by the clerk. That the second paragraph read that pursuant to Standing Order 1081A, the committee order the Department of Employment and Families to provide, and it continues from there. The point is that a request for information is not binding, but committees do have powers to order the production of this information. So I imagine that may have been the intent behind this.
Moving up, Mr. Janis?
Yes, I'm moving that amendment.
Madame DesRochers, I think we may get some agreement.
Maybe we can get to an agreement, but it's on the table.
You want to speak to it?
Well, sorry, I did not. On the amendment, I just wanted to get back to Ms. LaRoche's motion.
Okay.
So the amendment.
Are you amending it now?
The effect of the motion would be just to order the information instead of requesting the information.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can move to let's just move to approve this motion and then.
Okay, I'm seeing, so we're clear that there is a consensus on the motion of Madame LaRoche as amended by Mr. Janis. Mr. Janis read into the record clear verbiage, so we know.
Would like to resume debate on.
Sorry?
What are we doing right now? We're voting now?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I want to vote on the motion of Madame LaRoche as amended by Mr. Janis, and the record will clearly show the amendment that Mr. Janis verbalized to the committee. Mr. Janis, it's the motion of Madame LaRoche as amended by Mr. Janis, and he verbalized the amendment for clarification. Record a vote, clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the amendment is to add the words pursuant to Standing Order 1081A and to replace the words request that by the word order. Madame DesRochers.
That's right. There is an addition of the word to later on, but it's just to make it read properly.
Apologies. Department of Employment and Families to provide the number of cases. Madame DesRochers.
Oui.
Ms. Fancy. Yes. Monsieur Joseph,
Oui.
Ms. Koutrakis,
Oui.
Mr. Janis,
Wait.
Mr. Seaback.
Mr. Melillo.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Melillo,
Favor?
Ms. Goodridge. Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Madame Larouche.
Oui.
There, it's good. We got consensus. We're running out of time. So the motion of Madame LaRoche as amended by Mr. Janis was adopted by the committee. Quickly.
Debate on the motion that we've put forward on a national school food program.
Okay, but I'm going to have to call for adjournment of the committee. We are now over time.
Monsieur le Président, je pense qu'on peut faire.
I think you talked about 11:30. I'd like to do a quick amendment, and then we can get to the vote. I think we can do this in 2 minutes on your motion on the program.
We had resources to go.
If we can have 5 minutes, no?
Pardon?
Can we have 5 minutes? Can we have 5 minutes?
Well, 5 minutes.
Oui.
5 minutes. Okay.
Alors, Monsieur le Président, je veux.
So, Chair, on the school food program, I'm proposing an amendment because it's a program that's already existing. So 4 meetings. I want to amend the motion to have 4 meetings.
C'est bon.
Just point of order, Chair, because there's informal, like, if something's on the table, it's got to be on the table, we got to see it, we can talk about it. So I don't know what your plan is, but this is not how we transact official business.
So this is the motion that was put to.
So maybe
meetings
Chair, if
ago.
you can clarify what we're doing, and then we can.
Clarify. Madame LaRoche moved to resume debate on the motion that was introduced by Madame Koutrakis that was adjourned by Mr. Janis at the last meeting. That was moved to resume debate on the motion that was adjourned. Madame LaRoche?
Et je propose.
And I'm proposing up to 4 meetings, so to change it to a maximum of 4 meetings, and then we'll see. Then we can see after 3 if it's enough. But up to 4 meetings, that's the amendment I'm proposing to the motion.
That motion, or because we don't automatically resume it just because someone's moved to resume it. You know this, Chair.
Yes.
So, sorry.
Yes.
I'll let you.
But there was a motion to resume debate, but that motion must be approved by the committee by a recorded vote or unanimity.
We don't think, given that there's another committee coming in here in 20 minutes, that it's the right time to talk about it. So.
Okay, I'm going to have with this. We'll do a committee members order, a recorded vote on the motion of Madame LaRoche. We're in committee business, and the committee chose order. The committee chose to go in business as a motion of yours, Mr. Janis. We're in committee business. The motion of Madame LaRoche was to resume debate on the motion that was adjourned of Madame Koutrakis. Recorded vote on that motion. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madame Desrochers? Ms. Fancy? Yes. Monsieur Joseph?
Oui.
Ms. Koutrakis? Yes. Mr. Janis? No. Mr.
No.
Melillo?
Against?
Ms. Goodridge?
Against.
Mr. Reynolds?
No.
Madame Larouche?
Oui.
So the motion is carried, but we are running out of time. Do I have agreement from the committee to adjourn? Do we have agreement from the committee to adjourn? The motion was adopted. We're running out of resources. No, it was voted.
Mr. Chair.
The motion that you moved was accepted by the committee, but. So the motion to return to debate, Madame Koutrakis, was adopted by the committee.
And Madame Larouche had an amendment to propose.
For 4 days. For 4 days.
Okay, but the motion to return to debate was approved by the committee. Now I'm going
And we're approving her.
We're returning to debate. Madame LaRouche had an amendment, then I'll go to Mr. Janis. Madame LaRouche?
Donc, je répète que j'ai simplement...
So I'm repeating that I simply have an amendment stating up to 4 meetings, a maximum of 4 meetings. That's all I'm proposing as an amendment.
And Madame LaRouche, you moved a motion to the study would be up to 4 meetings, correct?
Oui, c'est ce que je viens de dire.
Yes, that's what I just said. So the amendment is a maximum of 4 or up to 4 meetings.
Mr. Janis, discussion on the amendment of Madame LaRouche.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So just to review the business of the committee that brings us to the point of deciding what additional studies we could do and when we would do them. I want to observe, first of all, that this committee has 2 pieces of legislation it's currently studying, a third expected to come from the House, a government bill, as well as, by my count, roughly half a dozen other studies approved or open.
I have to interrupt and advise the committee does not have resources now. So with that, I must either suspend or adjourn.
I would move to adjourn then.
Thank you. Is it the will of the committee to adjourn? Committee is adjourned.